Brand new polling from NBC News shows that more voters disapprove of President Trump than approve of him by double digits. He's underwater by 10 points. And this is interesting. Among people who like Donald Trump, who really, really like him, they're starting to not like him as much anymore. Among Republicans, the percentage of them who say they are most enthusiastic about Trump, they're thrilled by Trump, that number of Republicans has dropped 7 points since the last time this poll was taken in April. Even among self-identified, not just Republicans, but self-identified MAGA supporters, the percentage of them who call themselves thrilled with Trump has dropped 9 points just since April. People who really like him don't even like him as much anymore. There's a significant gap in enthusiasm right now between the people who are fired up in support of what Trump is doing and the people who are really fired up against him and also ready to go out into the streets to say so. The question is, what's the best strategy for this opposition movement going forward? Is there something that we can learn from other countries or from our own history that can help? At the flagship No Kings protest in Philly on Saturday, more than 100,000 people turned out in Philly alone. Historian Tim Snyder addressed the crowd. He urged everybody who came out to protest in Philly not to view protesting itself as the end goal, but to view it as the start of something bigger and more sustained.
We make a new friend here today, and we do something with them tomorrow. We meet somebody we admire today, and we do something with them tomorrow. We meet somebody who's a little more courageous than us today, and we do something with them tomorrow. Today, no kings, tomorrow, freedom. There is a better America out there. There is a better America underneath. There is a better America that we can see. There is a better America that we can make. History is in our hands. No kings. Freedom. No kings. Freedom. No kings.
Joining us now is Timothy Snyder, history professor, the author of On Tyranny and several other books about the rise of authoritarianism and indeed on freedom. Professor Snyder, it's really nice to see you. Thank you for being with us tonight.
So glad.
Given your scholarship on authoritarianism and on the democracies that have gone the way of authoritarian overthrow, what's your take on the state of the opposition to Trump right now in the United States, the strength and the healthiness of this movement?
So I would say we were a little bit slow out of the gate. For the first few months, it was, let's face it, foreigners and bond markets and the internal contradictions of the Trump position. But I think we turned a corner in April. I think we're gaining speed now with these last protests, which, if they weren't the biggest in U.S. history, were awfully darn close. We had about 5 million people out, which is 50 or probably 100 times as many as Trump had out at his birthday parade or whatever that was. I think we're at a moment where, as you say, we've got people, we've got energy, we have creativity, we've got some courage, and it's time to think about what to learn from the past and what to do next.
And what should we learn from what we've done as a country in the past, from what other countries have done facing similar challenges? Is there, I know every circumstance is unique and every would-be tyrant has his own spin on things, but are there sort of, I don't know, bright lines that we should be aware of in terms of what works, what doesn't work, better directions to head at this point in the evolution of this kind of a movement?
Yeah, one thing is that the unpredictability is part of the solution. So it's going to look ways that no one person foresees. Neither you nor I nor any of the specialists on this are going to predict exactly what it looks like. And the unpredictability is actually part of the winning strategy. You can't plan everything. You can't button everything down. New and interesting things are going to happen. That's one thing we learned from the history of social movements. They don't move like robots. They move like collections of human beings doing new things. And that's a second point. It has to be about the future. It can be about the present to some extent, right? Like the No Kings, you're against something, but it has to largely be about the present. You have to give people a sense that things can get better, much better, because, and that's true, they certainly can. A third thing to remember is that these things work as coalitions. So it's not us and them, it's people. It has to be people that we don't agree with about everything. It has to be people where they're protesting for the first time. It also has to include some people who were on the other side, who voted for Trump. Those are some basic things. And the coalition point comes through very strongly from US history. In US history, when we have become more democratic, like with the women's suffrage movement or with the civil rights movement, there have been people responding to a crisis, and then they had allies who listened to them.
In terms of nonviolence, obviously, we all know that nonviolent movements are more successful than violent movements. There's not going to be a civil war in this country, and this isn't going to be settled by military force. Talking about building a sustainable commitment to nonviolence and building up people's skills and resilience in terms of being nonviolent, especially as Trump tries to increase the specter of violence being associated with political dissent. Are there any sort of guardrails or bright lines that we should be thinking about in terms of how to build that? Obviously, we have the recent history of the civil rights movement to draw on with its richness and its spiritual basis in terms of teaching that and leading in that way.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to say a couple of comforting things here. The first is that they know that the moment that they reach out in that direction, they're going to lose. This is not a society where you can seriously imagine that using the military or using other organs of force to kill Americans is going to lead to something good for Donald Trump. He knows that. The armed forces know it. We all know that that's a losing strategy, not just a horrible moral catastrophe, but also a losing strategy. The second comforting thing that I want to say is that nonviolence, it isn't an absence, it's a presence. It's a way of being. It's the little bit of courage which gets you out there doing something unfamiliar. It's a little bit of courage that allows you to talk to somebody you didn't know before. It's that little bit more of openness that you have in a moment like this, rather than a little bit more of being closed. So nonviolence isn't just stopping yourself from being violent. It's also a kind of openness to participate in things, which leaves you feeling better afterwards.